Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome at the EPC Presidency Briefing that will focus on the presidency priorities of the Czech Presidency of the Council of the European Union in the second half of 2022. My name is Elizabeth Kuiper and I'm Associate Director at the European Policy Center. I'm very honored to welcome this morning the Permanent Representative of the Czech Republic to the European Union, Ms. Edita Hrdá. Good morning to you, Madam Ambassador.
Good morning.
As you can hear, the Brussels weather caught up with my voice this morning, but I'm sure we're making it through the hour. But please let me know if anything is unclear. The way that we're going to run this event is that I will briefly introduce the Czech presidency. Then Madam Ambassador will provide you with the priorities of the presidency for about 15 minutes. That will be followed by a conversation between her and I with a few questions about the Czech presidency. And then our participants will be able to have the floor and to ask questions to the ambassador. So the Czech presidency took over last week from the French presidency and is part of the council presidency that's made up of France, the Czech Republic and Sweden. And it's the second time that the Czech Republic now has the presidency of the Council of the European Union, the first one being in 2009. And obviously, this time, the presidency comes at a crucial point in time for the European Union. Some call it a Zeitenwende, but it's clear it's a watershed moment for the EU, where the Czech presidency will have to deal with a lot of priorities and a lot of files that are related to the ramifications of the war in Ukraine. It's really about Europe's place in the world and the consequences it has for issues to do with enlargement, energy security, the Fit for 55 package, and the cost of living crisis that is directly linked to the trust in democracy. And the motto of the Czech presidency is inspired by Václav Havel, who spoke about Europe as a task when he called on Europeans in 1996 to take responsibility for environmental, social, and economic challenges. And today, that motto still very much stands. So part of your presidency priorities is the triple challenge really to rethink, rebuild, and repower Europe. And that means that during your presidency, the Czech Republic will focus on 5 closely linked priority areas. It's managing the refugee crisis and Ukraine's post-war recovery. It's energy security. It's strengthening Europe's defense capabilities and cyberspace security. Strategic resilience of the European economy, also very closely linked to the fact that we're currently still in a pandemic, although we're almost forgetting that currently. And then the resilience of democratic institutions, also linked, of course, to the outcome of the Conference on the Future of Europe. So there really are a lot of things to discuss today. So I'm very happy to introduce you to the permanent representative of the Czech Republic to the EU. Ambassador Hrdá, you bring a wealth of experience, really. You were appointed the Czech Republic ambassador to the EU in 2020, and you have spent a significant portion of your career working on the Americas. But you're also a former Czech permanent representative to the United Nations. As I said, the ambassador will briefly outline the priorities of the Czech presidency for around 15-20 minutes, followed by a brief conversation between us. And then you have 2 possibilities to come in. You can ask questions in the chat, or if you want to ask the question to the ambassador orally, please raise your hand and speak up when you get the opportunity to speak. And really make it brief, because I know that we have a lot of participants online. It's great to have you as an audience, but I know that there will be a lot of questions, so please make it brief. And also, please relay your questions only to the presidency, because that's what we have Madam Ambassador for this morning. So I think with these household issues, Madam Ambassador, I'm delighted to give you the floor and to tell us more about the presidency priorities of the Czech presidency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me and to have the chance to explain a bit how the priorities were drafted, how we were thinking about it, what can be done and what can be done. You see, and you already said it, that in You have the, okay, already you see the presentation. Now this is fine. So you already said it, it's Europe as a task is the main motto, because the government of the Czech Republic came into the power around Christmas last year, and everybody was very eager to start to think about it, how the priorities and the motto should look like. And then the 24th of February came. And for many in Europe, the world changed really. So I have to say that the reflection of the war, of the brutal attack by Russia to Ukraine, really changed also not only our life, but also our thinking about it, what will be needed in the next half a year. We were very much hoping that our presidency will be a presidency which will be post-COVID, and then no big crisis. The crisis came already during the French one. And that what is needed now for during our half of the year is the reaction on everything what is, thanks to President Putin, also happening, and not only in Europe. So that's why the presidency was thinking that it would be good to have Ukraine per se as one of our priorities. We need to manage the refugee crisis. We need to defend ourselves and have the possibilities to react to that what is happening, but also we need to look at it, what it happens with the future Ukrainians, which means we will need to rebuild the country, to invest. And I have to say that it would have been possible to see such an important move by the European Union a year ago. And I am referring to the candidacy statute for Ukraine to be a future member, possibly, of the European Union. So everything this, I think, will fulfill a lot of the working space and thinking for the next half of year, and not only this. It will be with us also during the next Swedish and Spanish presidency and others. The second priority is energy security. Of course, with the big change we have seen, it's absolutely clear that we need to rethink how to get independent on Russia, the security of supply chains, to look at it, who are our real partners and with whom to connect, from where to find the sources of all the energy. With this, energy security goes back to back, and you mentioned it already, all the package of Fit for 55, the decarbonization, Repower EU, and you see we have Repower as one of the titles of the mottos of the presidency, because these rethink, rebuild and repower, these three words are, time to time you can play with them. Rethink means that we need to see what everything is possible. Rebuild means that maybe we need more changes. And this repower is not only repower in the sense of the European Commission proposal, but also to build up more resilience, to be more independent as the European Union. Speaking about energy security, of course, very important task for the presidency is to deal with the possible energy poverty across the Europe and European Union. And let me simply say that the package Fit for 55 we take very seriously. We will already start next week the first trialogues, and till the middle of the summer, there is the intention to start altogether 4 of them, and then in the autumn, the rest of them. So the third topic is strengthening Europe's defense capabilities and cyber security. this is something which is absolutely clear. What we need to do, we see the war on our borders, so we were in the last few, I would say even years, reflecting on that, what will happen with our defense capabilities. And we have the key instrument now approved, which is the strategic compass, which deals with all the threats, being it hybrid, being it disinformation, being it cyber, being it the real one, physical threats. So this is something what the Czech presidency wishes really to push forward. Of course, in the European defense, we need also to reflect on strategic military systems we have, and again, decreasing technological dependency and increasing industrial capacities of the EU with the link to, and we see that we have more and more NATO members, which are members of the European Union, which means in closer cooperation with NATO, and also with all our allies, being the transatlantic one as US and Canada, but also others. And this all has to do also with the fourth priority, which is the strategic resilience of our economy. The situation is, as we stand, not very positive. It is clear that the energy prices are influencing our life, everyday life of our citizens. And here I have to say that for the autumn, we are not very positive. We fear that the inflation will be even higher. And of course, a possibility of other COVID wave is also here. So we need really, and we already started, to look at the possibilities what the European Union has. There will be next week the meeting of the ministers of economy. So let's see in the ECOFIN what direction the ministers decide that the European Union has to go. We need to take care about our internal market without any doubt. And here in this priority is also all the digital package, being it Data Act, being it AI, being it European digital identity, etc., etc. And here maybe it will be a bit different to the previous French presidency, which was the presidency, of course, was marked very much by the crisis in Ukraine. Here we wish, together with the upcoming Swedish presidency, but also with the upcoming Spanish presidency, to dedicate our time to not only to internal, but also to external market, to look at the commercial and investment agreements with our partners, if possible to sign them. You had seen there was a political agreement with New Zealand in the last days. There is very good negotiation with Australia, and we have still 3 agreements with Latin America which were not signed, being it Mexico, being it Chile, and being it Mercosur, where we really want to go more into the detail and to see if at least the 2 of them could be signed during our presidency. And of course, here also what plays important role is all the commercial package what we have. And let me repeat that the strategic resilience, not only of our economy but of all the European Union, is something what we need to take care about. The last one priority is resilience of democratic institutions. All what you can imagine under this, being it freedom of expression, rule of law, open dialogues with the citizens, everything what we had seen in the so broad discussion in the conference of the future of the Europe, where the Czech Republic will be the first one of dealing with the results of the conference, but it is a task not only for one presidency, it is definitely a task also for the upcoming Swedish presidency. So here we want to go step by step. There are recommendations how to deal with this area, and we think this is something where we can achieve very good results. Here I have clearly and very quickly prepared overview of that what we want to do in the different councils, because now I was speaking more about the chapeau of the plan, and this chapeau, which is very much linked, as I said, not only to the green but also to the digital, is then worked through all and each one of the chapters of the presidency program, which deals with the different council configurations. So here you see General Affairs Council. Clearly, I was speaking about annual rule of law, dialogue, conference on the future of Europe, and hybrid threats, crisis management, which will be important. But also here fits in the EU-UK relation. We see what is happening in the United Kingdom, and it will be, I think we will need to dedicate much more time when the situation over there clarifies to this very important relation, and not only to this one, but also to the enlargement. This is something where we already pushed quite ahead all the files here at the beginning of our presidency, and we will see how the situation in Northern Macedonia will look like, and we very much hope that the first intergovernmental conference can take place in the next days here in Brussels, not only with Northern Macedonia, but also with Albania. So, and you see also in the slides always the events which are prepared. So, and in our priority is also cohesion. We are one of the countries which has still a lot of cohesion funds. So here the impact on the policy of convergence and twin transition is important. Of course, resilience and recovery. RRF, of course, evaluation of the RRF and looking into repower is very important. And again, the events which will be organized, being it in Prague and being it in Brussels. On foreign affairs, I was not touching very much on foreign affairs. Here we have a few priorities which are clearly linked to that what is happening, being it Western Balkans, being it also Sahel, all the problematic with food security, etc. And there are two more important geographical transatlantic relations I mentioned already, and Indo-Pacific, which links to the Indo-Pacific strategy by the EU, which is quite recent. We have our national one also, and we very much hope that this is exactly the region. You have heard me speaking about the trade agreements. I have to say that with Latin America, for example, they are not trade agreements only, they are association agreements, which have also the political and cooperation part in it. And we think it is very important to engage with these countries. What is not here listed, because it's listed in other slide, is also the relation with ACP. And again, fight against disinformation, strategic communication, and new technology. This is a horizontal issue, the same as human rights and democracy. Then the next one is the Defense and Development Council. So quick overview, I was speaking already about it, and here you see here also post-Cotonou is included, and of course also implementation of NDG globally Europe, and the seminars and events. Foreign policy trade, I mentioned already. Maybe let me say that anti-coercion instrument is also very, very important, and we want to go forward with it. And the reform of WTO, and here close cooperation with our allies. And ECOFIN is meeting next week, as I said. New own resources, a big question mark. Carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM. Here it fits to fit of 55, and CBAM is one of the trialogues. I will start already next week. Pillar 2 and Pillar 1 on direct taxation. French presidency worked very hardly on it, and we will follow. This is a file which is also very important to us. And Basel III, of course, as a very, very important topic. Justice and Home Affairs here. Let me say that, this is the next slide, thank you. Judiciary cooperation in general, important, all the digitalization and evidence, and of course also EU accession to European Convention on Human Rights. On Home Affairs, all the package, which is so complicated, of the pact, where I have to say that there is this home, please, if you can change to the next one. This is something where the agreement with the European Parliament will be quite a difficult one. We very much hope that we can start the trialogues on Eurodac and screening, but we are not very sure. We will follow the approach by the French presidency, which was to divide the big pact into smaller packages and move forward. The packages being balanced responsibility as one leg and solidarity as the other one. I have my hope. Interoperability, digitalization, again, very important already in the Eurodac. And one of the big priorities also for my minister is regulation to prevent and combat child sexual abuse. Here we want really dedicate our time to it. Consular protection as important point, and something what I very much hope we can not only move forward but also conclude in certain part is Schengen and the possible membership of or inclusion of Croatia into the Schengen area, and a bit later on maybe Bulgaria and Romania. And again the events, and then this was the part for the Coreper 1 priorities. Very quickly I will guide you through, and I am aware that you don't have the unfortunately the presentation for it. Let me mention quickly the Coreper 1 priorities. I already was speaking about Fit for 55 and all that what we want to do. The trialogues on the files, especially energy and transport, will start, as I said, in the autumn, and I very much hope that the European Parliament also will be ready here. To the Fit for 55, I have to say that the Parliament has not all the positions to all the packages. Energy security, one of our 5 priorities, I mentioned it already, and we will here engage with energy efficient directive and renewable energy directive and the trilogues. And these 2 pieces of legislation are considered the cornerstone of our strategy also to shift away from the Russian energy sources. Then the gas and decarbonization package, the colleagues wish to achieve a general approach regarding energy performance of building directive and hydrogen and decarbonized gas market package. These we think are very, very important. And then reducing methane emission in the energy sector regulation. I already said that our big priority is combating and resolving the situation around the energy poverty. this is a real concern for many member states, and the colleagues in the Coreper one will deal with it. The discussion about medium and long-term measures to counter the trend exporting the benefits of competitive internal energy market is other of the priorities, and our aim is make sure of, let me say, well-being of the citizens and competitiveness for our industries, because without our industries, the power and the resilience of the European Union will be weakened, and this is something what we should look into, and has to do with internal market also, and all that what is binded to it. What was very important is very important also for the Czech presidency is the taxonomy. Here, the act on taxonomy regarding nuclear and gas was very important to us. And I was already speaking about AI at the Compet Council. The other one very important file is European Chips Act as a priority for us. And we very much hope we will reach a general approach in the Council. So this was very quickly about that what we aim. Of course, the realities on the ground will be the realities on the ground. We have seen many presidencies being very well prepared and having big plans, and then crisis came, something came, and everything was very different. So let me stress here that I think that we are well prepared in this moment. We started already, and we see that we can move on the files which were a priority for us, being legislative files, but also non-legislative ones. And let me assure you that we are flexible. As a Czechs, we always had been flexible, but now twice we have to be, and we are totally aware that whatever happens, the reaction must be quick and sure. There are things which can be prepared a bit longer time. So now we started the preparation of the informal summit in Prague, which will take, which will be organized in the Prague Castle beginning of October. The working groups already started, and we very much hope that the preparatory meeting, which will be the Gymnich end of August, will mark the path, and also a big conference in Prague, which will be organized by Forum 2000 about Ukraine, so that we have clear how we want to envisage and what needs to be done. And if not this informal summit, then definitely till the end there will be the summit of the wider Europe. Let me say that the European Council tasked 3 weeks ago already, almost, President of the Council, the Czech Prime Minister, and the French President to draft the first ideas about it, to bring together all the arguments, and we will be working through the summer to say who will be invited and how we want to envisage this very important meeting in the Czech Republic, which will include not only EU member states, not only these countries which are already our close allies like Norway, like Switzerland and others on one side, but also these which are on the other one side, being it Western Balkans and being it, for example, Ukraine and Moldova. So the member states need to consult, need to reflect on this, and we hope that by September the concept will be ready and we will present it to everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, by setting out your priorities so clearly. And certainly, as you said, your flexibility is very important, especially in dealing with the ramifications of the war in Ukraine. That certainly has an impact on your presidency. I can see that we already have some specific questions related to files that you mentioned. So I would like to start with a more general question, because as the presidency, you are indeed, as they say, an honest broker in setting aside your national interest and really speaking on behalf of the EU member states, which isn't an easy task because you mentioned such a lot of topics, such as enlargement, energy dependency, Fit for 55. These have massive consequences for EU member states, and therefore ensuring EU unity and speaking with one voice and being that honest broker is not an easy task. So how do you deal with that, and are you enjoying that sitting in a hot seat?
Of course we do. Everybody does. It is a big responsibility, of course. We are absolutely aware that national interests are not that what we are defending here. We are speaking as a one voice for the 27, and it is absolutely clear to each and everybody of us, being it in working groups, being it the politicians. Of course, as a Czech Republic, we have our national interests still, but this half a year we need to balance and we need to see what the member states want. We have seen the very strong French presidency. I think what will be maybe important in our way to work and achieve the goals is that we are very ready to listen to different opinions, and we are very ready to take time enough which is needed to create consensus. The Czech presidency definitely will not be pushy, trying to change and force the opinions of the member states, but of course the dynamism must be there. So we can discuss informally and formally, and I think that good communication among the member states brings us to situations where the consensus can be reached. I have to say, and I came to this job, I joined the Perm Rep in October 2020, and when I do remember the first meetings I participated, of course it was under Corona, very special circumstances, you know, there was us and maybe our teachers with us in the room and nobody else. So it's not like today we have 5 people with us and the experts are sitting then and participating. Everything was or per video conferences, etc. But it was a very, very difficult time. The change came with the war. Here, I really can say that that was a moment after that everybody around the table started to engage much more. Today, we have understanding that not each and everyone can do everything. We have seen the discussions of leaders which were full of understanding for other member states. And let me mention at least my very personal experience when we are dealing with the sanctions against Russia. This full understanding and willingness to listen to the others among the colleagues has really increased. This feeling that we need to help to the others is here. So I think we can achieve a lot when we talk to each other. And this is maybe lessons learned for everybody, that we need to dedicate much more time to informal meetings, exchanging opinions, and trying to understand why the other maybe cannot move so quickly on certain files as we would wish.
Well, thank you very much. That seems very important indeed, knowing also a bit of European history, where they say that Europe is forged in crisis. So in that respect, I think that's very much what you're dealing with today. I have more questions, but let me perhaps first turn to the audience. And many thanks to you for joining us today. We have quite a few questions, but let me start with the questions to do with the Fit for 55 trilogues during your presidency. You already mentioned that indeed you will be dealing with them. And then the question is, do you expect to be able to conclude the trilogues during your presidency?
So Yes, we go into the trilogues, of course, very decided to speed it up and to conclude what is possible to be concluded. But as I said, the European Parliament is still not ready with some files. So it's not up to us if we can or we cannot conclude. It's really up to the two sides if we will be able to meet and to agree. So our willingness is to conclude as much as possible. And we very much hope it will be, if not totally everything, then the majority. But we know already now that some positions by the European Parliament will be ready only in October or beginning of November. So here, apparently, we cannot do miracles. And that will be the next Swedish presidency, apparently concluding. But we will see.
The next question is about the Czech presidency's priorities in the field of migration and asylum. And the question is, how will the gradual approach regarding the new pact continue under the Czech Republic's presidency? Which agreements do you expect to be concluded?
So yeah, I already mentioned that the screening and Eurodac, and there are much more, like 3-4 more, which were ready already like 1-2 years ago and are parked somewhere and waiting. Here, the two trilogues, we very much hope we could really speed up and conclude. The problem we have now, the Council decided to have this gradual approach, so smaller packages, well balanced, as I explained, between and having inside the part of solidarity, which is so important to the European Parliament. But from the side of the European Parliament, the MPs don't want really to start the trialogues without having everything prepared on our side. How we can deal with this, we are trying to convince the parliamentarians that would be good if we want to finish the files till the end of this period, that we already start with at least with something, and the Council proceeds the same way as we were proceeding till now. And I think this French approach was very good, and we are ready to follow with other files. I had preliminary discussions now the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when I had been to Strasbourg with the MPs, and we are coming back to meet us next week. So I have my hope that here we also can move forward. But it's not only up to us to these decisions.
No, it really has to do, of course, with the interinstitutional dynamics, as you say. So then there is a question from a reporter with the news agency Law 360, who is interested in a minimum tax file, Pillar 2. The question is, what can the presidency do to get Hungary to lift its veto on this? I think that's a rather political question.
Yes, this is a very political question. What can presidency do? What can institutions do? What can Commission do? There are many things what we can do. The question is if it works. So let us see if in the discussions we have with the colleagues, if there will be any solution and any way out. We will do our best.
Perhaps a question from my side, which is, I think, equally political, but I think also equally important for all member states at the same time. You mentioned the EU budget for 2023, and the draft general budget has been presented by the Commission early June, and it will need to be negotiated by the presidency together with the other institutions before the end of this year. Can you say a bit more about the dynamics between the three institutions?
So we had the first discussion at the level of ambassadors in Kuiper to one informal one yesterday. So we have heard opinions by the member states, and of course it is very important. There was Commission also who presented their part, how they envisage the situation, what they expect. And I very much hope that we will be able to succeed, and that also the Czech presidency will be able to conclude in November the budget for 2023. But of course, we only started now. This is about the discussion of how our positions will look like. So it's a procedure as always and every year. We also have to wait a bit till September when Commission comes with more data about that, how they see the situation for the next year. We will have more economic data also. And based on that, the negotiations will start. So there is still a bit time, preparation on all sides, and then the launching comes recently in September.
Good, that's a rather tight schedule indeed, I can imagine. Going back to the questions from the audience, there's also a question about the European Values Summit that is planned for the 8th till the 10th of November. The question is, what will be the scope of the conference, of the summit, and who will be the participants?
Are you speaking about the Value Summit or wider Europe Summit? Sorry, I could not hear well.
I understood it's the European Values Summit. So the one that is planned between the 8th and the 10th of November.
November 8th and 10th of November, okay.
And here it says the European Values Summit.
Oh, okay. Yes, what we will use, you had seen that one of the 5 main priorities is resilience of the democratic institutions. And here, all these topics which are important to us as human rights, freedom of expression, but also lessons learned from the totalitarian regimes, how they work, what can be done, are very important. So the first discussion, preparatory discussion for this summit will start next week when we have informal GAC meeting in Prague. And here, in fact, the ministers will start to discuss and prepare this very important summit. And what will be included there, and this is something very specific for the Czech Republic, we have, as in some other EU countries, institute, or it's a kind of institution think tank, which is comparing the different totalitarian regimes and is looking at that, what can be avoided, how we should deal with certain movements if we see it's going not very democratically, etc., etc. Everything what we went through during the communist regime, but not only this, it goes quite deep into the history also through the Second World War. Similar institutions are in Baltic states and in other places. So this will be one of the events of this value summits, where the lessons learned will be discussed, and maybe also the ways forward, how to avoid certain issues, certain movements, certain, let's say, happenings which we see coming, but we are not able to react to them.
I'm trying to bundle questions also because I'm conscious of time, because Madam Ambassador, you must be very busy these days. And I see that we have a few questions linked to the energy files. I think the more practical question has to do with the start of the trilogues. I think one of the questions is about when will they start? But I think more content-wise, the question is also with what trilogues do you start? So the content really of which part of the energy file will you start with?
So we will start next week. My first trialogue is next Monday, it will be CBAM. And my colleague from Coreper 1 will have 2 or 3 trialogues, I think 3 in the next 2 weeks. So there where the European Parliament is ready with the position, we will be starting, and let's see if we will be able to schedule something more. But we have only the next 2 weeks, and then the Parliament goes into recession, so we need to wait till September. But then the scheduling is already ongoing. I don't have here with me the last overview of this, but be sure that we are trying to find time and space. This is also important, to find space for these meetings, being it at the Council or in the European Parliament. But I am starting CBAM already next Monday, 2 o'clock.
Then there are a few questions that are rather related to Coreper 1. And of course, you're chairing Coreper 2, but you already mentioned indeed also that, of course, with your colleague, you're working together. So there is a question on the health priorities for the Czech presidency. And probably that relates to files like the European Health Data Space and other files that have to do with the European Health Union. So is there anything specific that you would like to mention in relation to health?
So I think health in the last 2 years, fortunately or unfortunately, came in the forefront. And to each and everybody of us is absolutely clear that here the diverse approaches in the member states are not very helpful in the case something happens. So there is, as you know very well, a very deep discussion about that. What can we have in common, where the national ministries of health would appreciate if the Commission steps in. Of course, always balancing between that, what is the national responsibility, because health is in fact national responsibility per se, and what where common approach can be helpful. And we have seen it very well with the vaccines, where the member states then unified, and we were asking the Commission to act. So I think here we can move quite forward on certain issues which would be clear for very special medicines, for very rare and special maybe diseases. And the Czech Republic will have a conference dedicated to these special, or it's not called special, I don't recall now the right English word for it. Rare, I think it's rare diseases in Prague, and I don't have the date. Is in November. I don't recall it well. So also acting together during the pandemics, looking on cancer and treatment of cancer, etc., etc. So there are a lot of possibilities, and the colleagues and the experts, I think, already during the French presidency did quite a good work to look into that, what would be possible, and where really the member states would be ready to work much more or seek much more the help by the Commission.
Well, thanks very much for that. And that is likely related to the fact that also the incoming Swedish presidency after you will deal with the revision of the directive on rare diseases. So it's very good to know that you will have a conference during your presidency already. And since you mentioned COVID, of course, the health ramifications, but also the social ramifications and the consequences also for a lot of issues to do with social cohesion, social matters is very important indeed. So we have a few questions related to that. And one of the questions is whether the Czech Council presidency plans to pick up the upcoming proposal for a Council recommendation on adequate minimum income schemes.
And this is this question comes very often to us, and the reply is yes.
So the brief answer is yes. Oh, that is a very clear answer indeed. Thank you very much for that, Madam Ambassador. Let me see, there's more questions related to enlargement issues. Here, there is a statement about the fact that the French presidency had planned to organize a conference on the Western Balkans, which unfortunately never happened. So the question is, does the Czech presidency plan to hold such an event? And how is it planning to build back a relationship which was hurt by these countries being sidelined by the events following the invasion of Ukraine? So it's very much about enlargement and the position of the Western Balkans in that in relation to a conference.
Yes, as you know well, there is not a duty, but I cannot say a pleasure fully, but a plan to organize every year summit with Western Balkans. Of course, it's very difficult. Last year in Bled, it was quite complicated. The results were as they were. A lot of expectation and no steps towards more openings from the side of the European Union. The French presidency organized the leaders' meeting back to back with the last European Council, where the leaders from the Western Balkans were invited. And I think it was good because there was quite a deep discussion about it, what is possible and what is not possible, what the European leaders are expecting from the Western Balkans leaders and vice versa. And this brought us to a situation where you had seen that the French presidency did important steps towards in the relation of Bulgaria and Northern Macedonia, trying to mediate the dialogue between the two countries and trying to convince both that this is time that the enlargement process should start. Now we are waiting for a reply by the Northern Macedonians. If this happens, we are ready to move forward and to call the intergovernmental meeting in the next days. We already were counting on it that we would deal with all the technical details in the last Coreper. It was not the case because there is no decision by Northern Macedonia, but whenever it comes, the Czech presidency is ready to engage and to organize. And it would be two of them, as I said at the beginning, Northern Macedonia and Albania. So here, and if this dynamics comes, and if we have clear results, and if there are deliverables for the Western Balkan countries, we are ready to organize in Prague or here in Brussels during our presidency other meeting, but then now the real summit with Western Balkans. But for that, we would appreciate if we have clear results and deliverables. If it should be again only a meeting where we exchange information, fine, but this we will not plan at the beginning of the presidency. This, if it happens, then it happens at the end of our presidency in December. If there are deliverables, we are ready to organize it earlier. We know that there will be election in Bosnia and Herzegovina in the beginning of October. There will be this planned meeting of wider Europe, where the Western Balkans countries will be invited. And then there will be a report on enlargement by Commission. I think it's 12th of October, if I remember well. So all these are building blocks which can lead us to a summit, but let's see how the situation developed. We need to be a bit more patient.
Thank you very much for that. I see we're approaching the end of the hour, and of course, I've really tried to do justice to all the questions by the audience. I'm sure that I have not answered everything, but I do believe and do hope indeed that we covered most of the questions. So, Madam Ambassador, let me thank you once again for your time, for the thoroughness of your answers, and above all, wishing you luck for the months to come, because there is a lot indeed that you have to deal with. Again, these are crucial times for the European Union. So we wish you every luck with that, and many thanks again for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. And I very much hope it's not the last time we talk, and maybe next time I will have already a possibility to report about that, what we have done.
Well, thank you very much for that. And many thanks to the audience as well. Many thanks for your questions, for your input. I think that made the discussion very rich. So many thanks. Don't forget to follow the European Policy Center to see for our next activities after the summer holidays. And with that, I wish you a good rest of the day and hope to be in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.